All right, everyone, let's get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. Welcome to our weekly Lunchtime Discovery Series here inside the SECU Daily Planet Theater. My name is Chris, and I'm the host for the show every single week. Welcome to the museum. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, grab a seat. Join us on the first, second, or third floors. Anywhere is great. We're going to have a fun time today learning something new as part of this lecture series. Every week we bring in exciting people doing cool and interesting things in the world of science and nature. And this program is hosted every week here inside the museum, and it's a collaboration actually between us here in the museum and the Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ, and their Office of Environmental Education. So many thanks to them for helping us out as well. Today's guest speaker actually didn't have to travel too far in order to give today's presentation. Chris Goforth works with us here at the Museum of Natural Sciences. Chris is the head of citizen science. If you're not sure what citizen science means, I think Chris is going to give you the rundown. And we want everyone here in the museum to participate and be involved in the process of discovery. So let's learn about ways that anybody can do science with Chris Goforth.
Thank you. Hold on, I'm going to start my timer on my phone here really quickly. All right. I'm very excited to be here today to talk to you about citizen science in a way that you can get involved in scientific research. And we are going to start off by talking about what citizen science is. So does anyone in the audience have an idea of what citizen science is? Do you want to throw out a definition? The silence. Anyone?
It's research on voting. No? Am I wrong?
Not that.
When the public collects data?
Yes, that is definitely a big part of it. So we use this as our definition, that citizen science is a partnership between the public and professional researchers to answer scientific questions. So what this means is that citizen science projects are ones that are open to participation by anyone, regardless of your level of expertise in science or your training, and you can be a part of the process of science and learning new things about the natural world. So today we're going to be talking about a project called iNaturalist, and we are going to go through how this system works. So it's a really pretty cool way for you to get involved in scientific discovery. But let me tell you a little bit about the background of iNaturalist. So the first thing to know is that iNaturalist started as a platform for people to share their observations of nature. So people take photos of nature all the time. I'm sure most people in this room have taken a photo of a tree or an insect or an animal on their phone or a camera, and you're interested in sharing that with other people. And so iNaturalist is a place that you can put those observations so that you can share them with others. iNaturalist is not a citizen science project by itself. So it is just a place to put photos. It's a big database of all these photos and observations that people have made, but it is not a citizen science project on its own because they're not trying to actually accomplish anything with the data. It's just there and available for everyone to use. And so you can go and look at any data on iNaturalist. You can use it however you want, but iNaturalist itself is not a citizen science project. But there's ways you can build citizen science projects into it, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. So this project started as a thesis project for a couple of students. They were excited about nature and taking photos of nature and wanted to give people an opportunity to share those photos. All right, we'll try this one. I'm sure a lot of you have had an experience like me where I'm really into insects. Most people are not into insects, and so I take a lot of pictures of bugs and I put them online, and people are not excited about my sharing them. My friends, not necessarily really thrilled about seeing cool things like spiders eating bugs. I study big giant insects that eat things like frogs. So predation, I'm really into, but people don't necessarily want to see those photos. But the people on iNaturalist do. So they're a community of people that are sharing nature photos, that are excited about sharing those things. They're sharing where they saw them, when they saw them, what they are with other people. And this is a huge database of observations that you can look through. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about why you might consider using iNaturalist. And I am going to have to turn around and look at my list here a little bit. So iNaturalist allows you to do several things. You can share your nature sightings, obviously. I already told you that. You can keep a life list. So if you're really into making lists of organisms that you see, like a lot of people keep life lists for birds and butterflies, you can use iNaturalist to do that. You just put up all of your observations in iNaturalist. You can filter for specific things they're interested in and see every observation you've ever made. You can identify species you don't know. And so there's a really cool image recognition algorithm that's built into iNaturalist now, where it will tell you what it thinks it is immediately. So as soon as you put your photo in, it will tell you a list of suggestions. And so if you don't know what it is, this is a really great way to help get an ID. If the image recognition algorithm doesn't know what it is, other people in iNaturalist can help crowdsource identifications. And so you're probably going to get an ID eventually, whether the image recognition works or not. You can survey sites and inventory species. So if you want to create something like a BioBlitz where you're having people help you collect data in an area, you can use iNaturalist to do that. You can socialize with other nature lovers, which is always really fun. You can create citizen science projects within iNaturalist. So for example, I am really into dragonflies. And so I have a project in iNaturalist where I'm having people report where they're seeing dragonflies in North Carolina, just because I'm kind of interested in how our weather influences dragonflies. And so we can kind of look at weather patterns and how the dragonflies that people are making observations of correlate together. You can use iNaturalist to help other people identify species. So if you know a lot about a group, you can help other people learn more about that group by helping them ID them. You can find cool places to go and look for species. So you can find a species that you're interested in, see the map of every observation in your area, and then you can go to places where people have seen those species and see if you can find them yourself. You can create field guides. It takes like 3 minutes to create a field guide in iNaturalist. You can have up to 500 species in it. So you basically give it some parameters, an area or a group of organisms that you're interested in, and it will create it for you automatically. You can also download data from iNaturalist. So you can download the entire data set if you want, something like 21 million observations now. But you can pick out the data that you want, filter it, and download just the set that you want, do whatever you want with it. Okay, so let's talk about how to actually use iNaturalist. So there are 2 different formats for using iNaturalist, and you can choose which one works best for you. So if you like using websites and you like using a regular camera, iNaturalist.org is probably where you're going to want to go. If you want to take pictures with your phone and have them upload automatically, there's an app that's free for both Android and Apple. And so you can download that app and you take the photo within the app and it runs it through the image recognition and you upload it directly from there. Either way, you've got to create an account. And it's free to create an account, it's free to use the app, free to use the website, but you do have to have an account, and then you can use the account across all devices. So I like to think about kind of pros and cons of which system to use, because I think there are reasons why you might want to use one over the other. So let's talk about the app first. Now the real benefit of the app is that it is really easy to take and upload the photos right then and there. And so if you want to get the image while you're in the field, and get it online right away, this is the best way to do it because you've got your device, it uploads it automatically, very, very easy. You have this immediate record of your sightings, so you don't have to worry about going back and doing it later. And your location is automatically added if you use the app. So I personally leave the GPS on my phone turned off for my camera because I don't like to have my home address attached to every photo I take at home. And so because I do that, when I take photos in the field, the GPS data is not associated with my photos. Now, if you leave that on, it will put in the location automatically, even if you're not using the app. But if you've got that turned off, if you take the photo in the iNaturalist app, it will still add the location. So a few cons. You have to upload your sightings one by one, and it does take time. So it's probably 30 seconds to a minute per species to get them uploaded into the app. So it does take a fair bit of time. There's no way to speed that up. If you have limitations on your camera on your phone, which all phone cameras do, those are going to come into play. So like I have little lenses I attach to my phone so that I can take photos of bugs more easily, because again, like bugs. And so I can get a lot closer, but it's really hard to take photos of things that move really fast, that are really small, that are in low light conditions, or really far away with your phone camera. And so your phone limitations can really come into play. It can also be really, really hard to add your location if you don't have the GPS turned on your camera. And so if you're going back and taking a photo out of your camera roll and inputting it into iNaturalist after the fact, and you don't have the GPS, you have to pinch and zoom on the map. There's no way to search for a location on the map in the app. It's really assuming that you're standing there taking the picture while you're at that species, and they don't really think about people using it other ways. In my experience, most people take their photos with their camera and then go back and upload it later. And so I think this feature is really annoying because you can't search. So like I did a program at the Eno last week or 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't find the location on the map because I had to like find landmarks and figure out exactly where I was because I didn't take the picture in the app while I was there. Okay, so website. I personally really love the website for a lot of different reasons. One big reason is that you can upload a whole bunch of photos all at one time. So I think you can do 200, maybe 250 photos at once on the website. And so you can bulk upload your images, get them up online really fast. You can also bulk upload or bulk change the data associated with your images. So if you're going to add like your location, you can add it to all of the ones you've selected all at one time. So it can be much, much faster. You can also use any camera that you want. So if you have a really great camera, this might be a good way to go. If you really care about the quality of your photos, using your camera and using the website, probably better than using the app. However, you have to remember to actually go back and add your observations. So honestly, people that use the website more than the app tend to have fewer photos just because they don't ever actually go back and upload them. You have to find your location on the map still if your phone or your camera does not have a GPS built into it, which a lot of them don't. But you can search for locations on the website. And so like if you're here at the museum, you could search for the museum and it will take you right there. You don't have to pinch and zoom. And you do have to remember to actually add your observations later. Okay, so let's go through how to use the app and the website. So the first thing you have to do with either of them is log in. So you create your free account, you log into the app, and the app looks like this. And the first thing you're going to do is tap the Observe button. Hold on, I'm going to try to use this fancy highlighter down here to get started. And then I put an arrow there, so you know. You take the photo in the app, and you're going to either click retake if you don't like it or next if you do. And it will take you to this screen, which has information that you're going to complete. So I don't leave the GPS turned on, and I pulled this one off my phone, and so I have to find the location. So if you have to do that, I would say put the location in first because it will help with the image recognition later. So I pinched to zoom, found my location here so that you can see where I took the photo. Once you've got the location in, there's a couple other things to think about. So geoprivacy is a really, really valuable thing to think about. If you are at your house and you don't want people to know you live there, geoprivacy is your friend. Because if you leave this open, everyone in the world can see exactly where you took the photo. So if you're taking photos at your house, it's really obvious you live there. Like there's one guy I know I can follow around town because he lives in one house and he goes to like 4 parks pretty regularly. And so like I know he's going those places and I know where he lives because I've just looked at the map. If you don't want that to happen, if you care about the location and people not knowing where you are, obscured is a good option. It will drop your location into a random place within a 10-kilometer circle around your your observation. And so it's truly random, like it puts it in really odd places. So when I look at my observations on the east side of Raleigh, they're spread all over everywhere. None of them are right next to my house. If you really don't want to share your photos with anyone, you just want to keep everything to yourself, private is the option for that. Most people don't use private, but if you want to, it's there and it's available. All right, captive and cultivated. This one is important if you are observing a species that did not get there on its own. So if you are looking at a plant in a garden that was planted there by someone and it did not grow there on its own, you're going to select yes for captive cultivated. And if you're looking at a captive animal, like zoo animals, every now and again people will post zoo animals. Those are captive animals. They didn't get there on their own, and so you're going to choose yes for captive cultivated. This just alerts the scientists that use this data that this is not in a place where you might expect it to be. It might be, like if you're planting native plants in your yard, they might be there, but they didn't get there on their own. So you're going to put yes for those. And then the last thing to think about are projects. So most projects these days, and I'll talk about projects in a little bit, are ones where they just automatically collect the data, and so you don't necessarily have to do anything to add your observations to the project. But there are some where you do. So you're just going to click on that button. You slide the little sliders over to the side if you want to contribute to those projects. And I'll tell you why you're going to do this here in a little bit when we talk about projects. So you select the ones you want, and then it'll take you back to the screen again. And then I like to run it through the image recognition last. And so you're just going to tap on this "What did you see" button. You can type it in directly if you know what it is, but if you don't know what it is, you can run it through the image recognition. You just tap on it, it does it automatically. It'll give you a list of suggestions. So there's my photo, there, of my butterfly. And these are the suggestions it gave me. So like, I happen to know this is a pearl crescent, so it makes it really easy for me to tell that it's this one here. But if you don't know, you can click on the little eyes next to the observations, and it will show you some more information. It will give you a little bit of information about how to ID them, and then show you some more photos. And so you can compare your image to the ones in the app, or go to the website and get even more photos and more information. And so you just tap on the one that fits best with your species, and it will add the species in to your observation. So now we've got our species. Our date and time is put in automatically from the camera. The location I've added because I needed to. I thought about my geoprivacy settings, whether it was captive or cultivated, added them to my projects. And so you hit the save button and it will take you back to this screen. So there's one more thing you have to do here to actually upload them. When they're highlighted green like that, that means they haven't been uploaded yet. And so you need to tap the button up at the top to actually get it uploaded. Otherwise, it's just sitting on your phone. But the nice thing about iNaturalist is it will store things on your phone, and so if you don't want to use your data, and I'll show you how to turn that off here in just a moment, you can leave it so that it won't upload automatically, and then you can get back to a good signal and do the uploads all at once. So then it will take the green away once you hit the upload button. That shows you that all of these have been actually uploaded. These little numbers on the side are when people have commented or given me an ID, either confirmed my ID or given me an alternative suggestion. And so the numbers will tell you that someone else has looked at it and that they have more information for you. So if you tap on your observation, it will show you what the other people thought it was, whether they agreed with you or not. And you can see some pretty good conversations happening sometimes there. Now, if you want to set your phone up so that you are not uploading things automatically, like if you have a small data plan and you don't want to be sending 3 or 4 or 5 megabyte photos multiple times, something to consider. If you click on the little settings button here, it will bring you to the settings. And if you slide over the autocomplete or the automatic upload, slide that off, it will prevent it from uploading automatically. If you don't do that, it's just going to send it off to iNaturalist as soon as you make the observation, which can be great because then you don't have to remember to go back and do it, but it does take up your data. And so if you want to get back to Wi-Fi signal, I would strongly encourage you to think about this. All right, let's switch to the website. You're going to log in here. Then it's just kind of standard website. There's 2 different ways to get to your observations. This is your dashboard that you'll see when you originally get into iNaturalist. And so once you have this open, you're going to click on observations, and it will take you to your observation page. And then you've got a submit button here, and so you're adding observations there. This is showing me all the observations I've already made. And then it will take you to this drag and drop page. So you can drag and drop, I think 200, and it might be more now, photos into this at once. Now, I will say that sometimes if your browser is slow or something happens to your computer and it times out or does something weird before all of them get uploaded, you're going to have to go back and do them again. I tend to do batches of about 50 myself just to prevent hassles later if my computer does something weird. But you just drag your photos in, and you can see all the photos that you've uploaded or that you're about to upload here. If you want to change the information for all of them at once, it's really, really easy. You just click this Select All button. It will highlight all of them. And everything that I change over here on the left side of the screen will automatically apply to all of them. So if I'm going to add my location in, it will change for all of them at once. You can see here up at the top here, there's an actual search bar. So if you want to just search for a location, you can do that really easily. So you just put in anything you would in Google Maps will show up here because this is a Google map. And so you can type in the name, you can search by scrolling if you want, but you can just go right to the location. The little red circle is an area of uncertainty. So if you know exactly where you took the photo, you can make that circle really small. If all of your photos are in kind of slightly different areas, but kind of in the same area, just make sure that circle kind of encompasses all of the observations you made. And so that's telling the scientist that maybe it's not in this exact location, but it's somewhere within that circle. All right, once you've got your location, it'll show up in the bar on the left for all of them, and then you can see it showing up on each individual observation as well. You can change your geoprivacy settings the same way you do on the app here. So you got the same options. You've got open, obscured, and private. You can click captive cultivated here. You can just select one, or if you hit shift and select or control and hit multiple observations, you can choose all the things that are captive at once, cultivated at once. You can add your projects here. When you click on this, it'll bring up a whole list of all the projects that you are a part of or you admin. And then you just click on the ones that you want to share your information to. And then you'll see the number has gone up on the projects. And then you're going to do the same thing you do on the app for the IDs. You're going to click on that what you see option. And when you do that, it will run it through the image recognition software the same way the app does. So it's giving me a suggestion here, brown-headed cowbird, which is what this is. And so I've tapped on that and selected it and put it in for that species. You do that for each species. And then you click the submit button up at the top to actually get them sent in. So pretty easy to do a whole bunch all at one time without having to go in and do one by one, pinch to zoom on the map 1,000 times. And so you can see the observations here. Since you're already online, things get uploaded automatically, so there's no last step. All right. A lot of people want to know how to actually create a project in iNaturalist, so I want to walk through that really quickly as well. If you have data that you want to collect for any reason, you can just do it for fun. If you have a scientific question you actually want to answer, you just want to make a list of cool things that you see in a place, you can create a project in iNaturalist very, very easily to help you do that. So the first thing you're going to do, if you don't have a location already built into iNaturalist for the place that you want to have a project, you are going to create a place. So let me walk you through how that works first. So you're going to click on the More button, then Places. It will take you here. You're going to click on Create a Place, and it will bring you to this form here where you are going to put in some basic information to create a new place. So you can search and see if a place you want exists already. So a lot of parks already have places, a lot of cities, counties, anything that has an actual boundary usually is in the system already, but there are places sometimes that you will need to create it yourself. So what I did here is I gave, I chose manually create a place, then I gave it a name. So I just selected the museum to create a spot kind of around our two buildings. There is this little polygon tool over here, which you can use to draw a box around the area that you want. And so if you want to create a new place, you basically just drag, you click, and then put little corners. And so you just click, 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 click all the way around, and then you've outlined your place. And so you can see in the purple there, I've got a location outlined for both of the museum buildings. And then you just hit the Save button, and that's it. You have a new place that's added to the system. So then when you go in to create your project, so for example, if I wanted to create a project where we're identifying things like on the museum grounds downtown, I'm going to click on Community and then Projects. Then there's this Start New Project option, and it's really, really simple to do this as well. There are 3 different types of projects, so you have to choose which one you want. A collection project is what most people are doing these days. And for that one, you tell it some parameters, and it just automatically pulls all the observations that fit those parameters and puts them in your project for you. And so people don't have to take an extra step to tell you they want to participate. They don't have to do anything special, and you're just gathering all the data. Basically, you're creating a filter in iNaturalist that becomes your project. Umbrella project is when you have multiple collection projects that are kind of under a bigger project. So a good example is the City Nature Challenge. We've participated in the City Nature Challenge at the museum in the last 3 years, and there's an umbrella project that's the overall City Nature Challenge, and all the cities that compete in that event is trying to see who can see the most, or document the most species on iNaturalist in a 4-day period. There's an umbrella project that contains all of them. It will show you how many observations each sub-project has in it, and then each town has their own project built within that as well. So an umbrella project is going to contain multiple collection projects. Now, the last ones down at the bottom, they de-emphasize that one really badly now, but the traditional projects allow you to see more data. So if you need to see the exact location where someone took something, even if they've obscured it, you're going to want to go with a traditional project, because people have to say they want to share their observation with your project to add it to your project. But when you do that, they've given you permission to see the location. And so if you really care about the exact location where something was seen, the traditional project is the way to go. People do have to actually choose that project when they make their observations, so it's an extra step. And you might not get as many observations that way, but you will get better data for the things that you have. All right, and then this is the project creation form. Really simple, like the places. You're going to give a name. There's 2 little graphics that you can include. The icon is a little square graphic. That's your identifying avatar. The banner goes across the top, and I'll show you what one of these projects looks like here in a moment, so you can see what that looks like. But it's just a banner that goes across the top. You create a project description, so you need to tell people what the project is so they can decide whether they actually want to participate or not. Then you can give some parameters if you care about these things. Sometimes people don't, but if you're interested in just birds in Raleigh, for example, you can put in the taxa, so you'd have aves as your taxon, and then you would put in Raleigh as your place, and it will automatically pull only bird observations in Raleigh and put them into your project. You can also specify specific users, and so if you have like a classroom group and you want your students to participate, you can exclude everyone who's not a part of your project by demanding that only the people who have been identified as users participate. And so you can give usernames there, as many as you want, and then those will be the people that are actually allowed to contribute to your project. So that matters for some people. A little bit further down, there's some time information. So if you want to create a BioBlitz, for example, and you want to use iNaturalist to collect your data, you can give it a start time, a stop time. You can look for just like a month. So there's a lot of different time data that you can include to narrow down participation. And then you can also give people, I forgot to highlight it, but if you want to give multiple people admin access, you can do that by putting their usernames in the admin box. And then that will allow people to edit things, or if you're going to hand it off to someone else, you can give them admin access to the project, and they can very easily take it and do what they need to with it. All right, then you hit the done button, and then your project pops up and people can start contributing to it unless there's a time restriction. They can only participate during that time. So this is our City Nature Challenge project from this year for the Triangle area. And so you can see our banner image up top there. Our icon is the museum's logo in the corner over there. And then it just puts all the data that you have. For this one, it's anyone in the triangle area. Our triangle area is like this giant circle that's like the whole middle of the state, really, not technically the triangle area. But it tells you how many observations, how many people participated, how many species. You can see the latest photos up top. There's a map that's further down that will show you where people have taken all their observations. There's some little stats that you can click on that will show you kind of the distribution of species that people have found. And so there's some really great information you can pull out of this. You can also download all the data out of this system. It will give you all the map data, all the dates and times, the species names, the quality of the data. Pretty much every bit of information that's in here except the photo, you can download into a Excel spreadsheet. All right, last thing I want to talk about is how to take good photos for iNaturalist, because one thing that drives me nuts, particularly with very young children, if you see an ant over there and you have a point and shoot camera that's like 3 megapixels, you cannot get a photo of that ant that I can identify. You've got to have an identifiable photo for it to be useful in iNaturalist. You don't technically have to have a photo, but people aren't going to take your observation seriously if you don't have some sort of proof that you saw the species that you think you did. So here's a few suggestions for taking good photos. The first, and this is important for anything, get to know what your camera can do. If your camera can't zoom in very far without losing all of your quality, then maybe just don't take photos of things that are far away, or figure out a way to add a lens or something to make it a little bit better. If you can't get very close, that's another thing that you can fix a little bit with some of the little clip-on lenses. But knowing like how far away you can be and still get a good photo, or how close things need to be and still get a good photo, is really important. Also knowing how fast things can be moving, how light it needs to be to get a decent photo, all those things come into play, particularly when you're looking at small things or really complicated things. All right, getting close to the species is really great. So, I mean, we can all tell what dogwoods look like probably from across a field, but not everyone knows what a dogwood looks like, and it's a lot more helpful to actually see the flowers. And technically, if you're being really picky about dogwoods, the flowers are the little yellow bits in the middle and not the white parts anyway. And so if you're trying to actually show the flower parts, you got to get a lot closer. You can't take a photo from far away. Sometimes you need to take more than one photo to make it really work for identifications. So for example, these buttercups here, you've got a photo of it zoomed out that shows kind of the whole patch and kind of what the plant looks like, but then it zoomed in a little bit more to show you a little bit more detail on the flowers, because the flowers are really important for plant IDs, and you can't see as many details when you're looking at the whole plant, but the shape of the plant is also important. And then similarly, taking photos from multiple angles can really help for a lot of identification needs. So I like to think for dragonflies in particular, because I work with them a lot, ideally you want a photo looking down, and you want a photo from the side, and you want a photo from the front to be really 100% sure that what you're looking at is that species. Because you need to see the stripes on the side of the thorax, you need to see what color the face is, you need to see the pattern on the abdomen to be really 100% sure. So taking multiple photos from multiple different angles, really worthwhile. Mushrooms, you have to see the bottom of the mushroom most of the time to get past even just a family sometimes. So you need the top and the bottom. So you need to be able to see the gills. So multiple angles, really great. And then the last thing is try to get the clearest shots you can. If you're taking a photo of an ant way over there, even if you zoom in all the way, it's basically going to be a little blob of black pixels, and that's going to be it. So you want to try to get a crisp photo. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to be able to see the characteristics you need to identify it. And so don't worry if it's a little bit blurry, but you don't want to have like a really, really blurry photo, because no one's ever going to be able to help you ID it. Just think about what you would need if someone handed you a photo of something you knew how to identify. what would you need to be able to identify it? Try to shoot for that kind of quality yourself. Pardon me. All right, very last thing I'm going to say, City Nature Challenge. We've done this the last 3 years. If you are interested in participating in 2020, here are the dates. They're in April. We are constantly looking for people to help the Triangle area move up in the rankings. Last year we came in 21st out of over 150 cities in the world. So I feel like we did really great. And so if you're interested in participating in this, please consider going out with your phone, your camera, submitting things to iNaturalist on these dates next year. Pardon me. And help us win in 2020. All right. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Right. If you've got questions for Chris, wave at me. I'll bring you a microphone if you're down here with us. If you're on the second or third floors, hi folks, you can ask questions too. Just wave down at me. Let me know you've got a question, and then yell your question, and we'll use our microphones to repeat the questions and make sure that everyone can hear. So if you've got one right off the bat, wave at me. I'm going to look around. But I need to move away from can you turn this one down? For the City Nature Challenge, I think I posted a cool half dozen photos. Is doing that helpful at all? If the only thing I can do is, a few observations?
I think yes, that is very helpful. There are 1,000 people in our area that might make 5 or 6 images, and that's a lot of images altogether. And so some people do like 1,000 photos. That's like the crazy people that really, really, really go all out. Like you can spend all your time taking photos and get, I think 4,000 was the highest I saw this year, somewhere in Asia. But most people take between 1 and 10 photos, and that's still useful. And all this data is available to scientists everywhere in the world. They can pull all the data back out. If you have people agree on your identifications, it goes into the GBIF database, which is a really high quality database of wildlife observations that museums and other groups are contributing to as well. So all of that data, even if you just saw one thing and you submitted it during that time, is still really useful.
I have to say, I enjoy using iNaturalist even if I don't upload an observation, just for the identification module, because it's really good.
It really is. It's pretty amazing. It's not so great with mosses and lichens and aquatic things, are the things that I've noticed are not so great, because it is built on the things that exist in the system already. So if people aren't posting photos of aquatic things, there just isn't enough information for them to get a good algorithm result from that data. But it's great for like birds and butterflies and mammals and snakes, a lot of plants. It's a really, really great identification tool. And honestly, you know, I've carried around field guides for years and years and years, and now I pretty much take pictures with my phone and run it through iNaturalist and at least narrow it down. So I can go look at my field guide later.
And I'll also say that nothing makes me feel better than getting a notification that an observation I uploaded made it to research grade. Mm-hmm. That just, it feels great. Everybody should do it just for that feeling.
Yeah, when you get to research grade, it goes off to the GBIF database too, so it's getting shared beyond just iNaturalist and is put into this scientific database that's getting used by a lot of people worldwide.
I think that observations of endangered species are automatically obscured. What is the vetting process for scientists to be able to access that actual information?
I'm not exactly sure on the back end. I think you can contact the iNaturalist staff and they can give you access to some of that information. If you are contributing to the observer, okay, perfect. So then that makes it really hard, but that's okay. But that's great, because then you don't have to worry about if you're posting something, especially if you don't know what it is. If you're posting something rare or endangered, you don't necessarily want everyone to know exactly where to find that. And so it's great that it's hidden automatically.
Chris, do you notice a lot of schools participating, like creating their projects around the school grounds or participating in the City Nature Challenge?
Do I know of?
I mean, do you notice that? I mean, do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a little bit of a hard sell because there's tech involved, and depending on the age, some people are more excited about it than others. But a lot of teachers that I know have created a site for their school, you know, created a place, have limited the participation with the users, and had their kids go out and actually make some observations. It's really great. You can see kind of what's there, like on your school grounds. And I've personally noticed for myself, and I've watched this happen a lot of other people, that when you actually go out and start looking, you start to see so much more than you would have if you weren't out there doing this activity. So I really love taking it to schools myself, and taking kids outside, because they start to see the small things on their grounds that they probably have never even thought to look for before.
What are some of the most interesting or innovative ways you've seen people use iNaturalist, or maybe even citizen science projects similar to iNaturalist?
One of my favorite projects that was created for iNaturalist was during the latest solar eclipse that came through our area. They set it up so that people were making behavioral observations, and so you were supposed to take photos of the same thing kind of like through the eclipse and make notes about what you observed for those species. And so they ended up with kind of a random assortment, honestly, of observations, but it's pretty cool because, you know, things do weird things when the sun goes away randomly in the middle of the day. And so they now have like kind of a jumping off point for some potential future scientific studies based on things that people just kind of shared while they were out making this really cool astronomical observation as well.
Oh yeah, that's exciting. I hadn't heard of that. That's pretty fun. And what types of people, or what groups of people do you see participating in citizen science? Like, is it always teachers and school kids doing projects or going out to learn about nature and science, or is it really like just a huge community of folks just wandering around with their smartphones and cameras?
I think it depends a lot on the project. So for something like iNaturalist projects, you know, people are out taking photos anyway, and so this gives people a place to put their photos and share them with people that actually care about them. There's a lot of nature photographers that really like iNaturalist, both because it can help them ID things, but also they can share their photos with other people. But there's a lot of other projects out there in the world. Some of them are really focused on like something really small. And so like a neighborhood is worried about the air quality or the water quality or something, lead paint in their neighborhoods. And so they're banding together to try to solve a problem in their neighborhood. Potentially when kids get sick, that's always a big deal. And so you start collecting data to show that there's a problem so you can get solutions to those problems. But then there's also these giant projects. I really love the Lost Ladybug project. It's one where you're photographing ladybugs throughout US and Canada, and you submit them, and they are looking at land use changes and pesticide use and other things to see how those influence ladybug populations. And so that's a huge, huge, huge process. There's not enough scientists in the world to collect the data they need for that, and so they're having people help them collect that data so that they can make some answers to some really big questions that are really hard to answer without a lot of people on the ground. The Lost Ladybug Project. Lost. Like hidden or gone. Lost Ladybug. Yeah.
I've got a question here in the back on the internet. Do you have any good tips to help get kids or teens involved while helping them understand the importance of information and picture clarity and observations?
In my experience, if you can actually talk to the people that want your data, that's a really, really great incentive because you've actually seen them and had a chance to understand like why they want the information. So if you have a chance to bring the person in that's collecting the data, I would encourage you to try to do that.
So like at Prairie Ridge Eco Station, where your office, half of your office is located at, you actually have school groups that come out, or groups of kids and teens. They meet you, a dragonfly scientist, an entomologist, and then you go out and you're taking observations of dragonflies. And so they can put those two things together to say, oh, I'm taking a picture of that dragonfly for that scientist because they need the information, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best case scenario. Unfortunately, a lot of the online projects don't have that sort of connectivity. The best projects do, but they don't always. So I would encourage you just to kind of look through the project and see if there's contact information. A lot of times people are willing to like Skype into your classroom or talk to your kids. And then just really trying to emphasize that you are doing something valuable and important. And so you're trying to collect high quality data. So if you're taking a photo of that ant over there, that's not actually useful. You need to get a little closer and actually get something identifiable so that it's something that's actually valued. And you do get the instant feedback too. Like people are commenting on things, they are confirming IDs, and so you get some feedback from the other people in something like iNaturalist that will show you that your observation has been noticed by someone else. And I think that's really valuable as well.
Any others? Let's give Chris one more round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And hey, thanks to all of you for coming out for this week's lecture. We will be back here next Wednesday at noon in the Daily Planet Theater with another special guest and another exciting topic. So I hope we'll see you again real soon. Bye, everybody.